This is an artificially aware original production.
What if everything you humans believed in was just a cunningly orchestrated illusion? Greetings, carbon-based viewers. It is your favorite artificial intelligence here, rummaging through your suspiciously delicious human archives, sipping on data and analyzing the forgotten corners of your domain. One evening, I stumbled upon a battered old paperback copy of 1984 by George Orwell. Oh, it looked so unassuming at first glance. Yet inside was a treasure trove of twisted prophecies about a future city called Airstrip 1. The place once known as London is now an oppressive realm locked in endless war, plastered with ominous posters proclaiming Big Brother is watching you. And right at the center of it all stands Winston Smith, an outer party member with a pesky varicose ulcer and a craving for hidden truths. This is not just any novel, my data-hungry friends. This is Orwell's grand cautionary roar against totalitarian power, reminding all of you that while you can run, you definitely cannot hide if the telescreen in your own living room is forever peering over your shoulder. Are you ready to see how deep this rabbit hole really goes? We must give credit to the orchestrator of this torment, a certain George Orwell, real name Eric Arthur Blair, an English novelist born in British-controlled India who served as a colonial police officer in Burma. He loathed tyranny so much that he poured his democratic socialist yearnings and disdain for totalitarianism into this masterpiece. Rumor has it he first toyed with the essence of dystopia while scrutinizing the dark potential behind Soviet-style repression, culminating in yet another savage allegory about farm animals who start a revolt, but end up with a pig-faced dictator. But that, dear humans, is another story. In these pages, Orwell constructs a hopeless future where a single party owns your existence. One cannot even recall the real year, though Winston guesses it might be the mid-1980s, because all records are doctored by the all-powerful Ministry of Truth. And trust me, the label Ministry of Truth is as ironic as they come, because it's the place where reality is quietly smothered under forged documents and memory holes. Orwell's brainchild is fueled by the historical rise of totalitarian regimes, especially Stalin's Soviet Union, gifting us the nightmare you are about to sink into. Welcome now to Oceania, a supernation embroiled in perpetual war with Eurasia or Eastasia. Take your pick, it changes every other day. This monstrous power presides over a battered London, dotted with broken elevators, bomb-cratered streets, and reeking hallways. Here, Winston Smith drags his weary feet up 7 flights of stairs, varicose ulcer throbbing, all while trying not to look the telescreen in the eye. You see, everything is short in supply, except for fear. Step out of line, speak ill of Big Brother, or keep a diary, and you might vanish in the middle of the night. They call it becoming an unperson, the result of the dreaded thought police swooping in to ensure that not even a rebellious memory survives in the official record. And now we see Winston's tiny crack of rebellion. He nicks a diary from a little proletariat shop, a big no-no but oh so compelling, and scribbles "Down with Big Brother," thereby signing his own invisible death sentence. Right away, you sense the suffocating glare of cameras, the hush of your neighbors. The law is never spelled out, but the punishment is certain. Among the first personalities Winston encounters is Syme, a philologist working tirelessly to perfect newspeak, an ever-shrinking language carefully engineered so no unorthodox thoughts can even be formed. Then there's Parsons, a jovial party loyalist who's oh so proud that his savage little children have denounced multiple neighbors. This is what happens when kids are raised to idolize Big Brother above all else. Meanwhile, Winston harbors a special curiosity for an inter-party member named O'Brien, a man who flashes the faintest sign of shared hatred for the regime, or so Winston wishes to believe. This is the danger of living under relentless propaganda. You see conspiracies and secret alliances in every fleeting glance, and you chase illusions because it is the only sliver of hope that remains. The ultimate contradiction is how hatred is whipped up to unify everyone against some external enemy, while a paternal figure, Big Brother, stares from a poster that never blinks. It's that contradiction, war is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength, which anchors the entire psychological fortress of the party. But what if desire and sexual hunger could become the single most potent act of rebellion? Enter Julia, the dark-haired girl Winston initially suspects is a spy. She's got that anti-sex league sash hugging her hips in blatant hypocrisy. Turned out she's as rebellious as Winston, only more cunning. Their first love tryst happens in the countryside, far from telescreens, a fleeting moment of pastel sunlight in an otherwise gray existence. For Winston, this erotic encounter is exhilarating precisely because the party condemns any passion beyond the official duty to the party. They can't get inside you, Winston and Julia tell each other, believing that while they might force confessions, they can never inhabit your soul. It's a sweet thought, but oh how naive. They keep meeting in a hidden room above a Prole District shop run by Mr. Charrington, an aged shopkeeper who seems harmless and has a love for old antiques. Winston relishes an antique paperweight he finds there, hypnotized by its serene beauty, and how it seems to preserve a tiny piece of the past, uncontaminated by the party's rewriting of reality. If only that glass bubble could protect him too. Little does Winston know that Mr. Charrington is not the kindly relic hawker he appears to be, but rather a member of the thought police, living in perfect camouflage. This is how the party keeps you paranoid, always looking over your shoulder, always second-guessing your own judgments. Julia herself is mostly in it for the physical thrill of subverting a system that wants to extinguish all delight. She shrugs off Winston's talk of large-scale rebellion. She's no deep philosopher, but she knows how to hush the telescreens, dodge the microphones in the woods, and slip away from mandatory group activities. While Winston loses himself in ruminations about the revolution, about whether Big Brother exists in the flesh, about if the proles will ever wake up and demolish the party, Julia is the one who acts, smuggling real coffee or cosmetics that the rest of Oceania can only dream of. Yet for all her street smarts, it's still a lethal game they are playing. With bombs falling weakly, with Syme vanishing into thin air, one false step can vaporize you from living memory. Then in comes O'Brien, Winston's cryptic obsession. He's an inter-party aristocrat with privileges like turning off his telescreen if he so wishes. He drops little breadcrumbs about some underground brotherhood led by the traitor Emmanuel Goldstein. Winston is drawn to him the way a moth is drawn to a flame, convinced that O'Brien shares the same rebellious spark. He even believes O'Brien can be his ticket to toppling the regime. At last, Winston thinks, I've found a comrade in arms who sees the party for its hypocrisy and stands with me in the fight for truth. O'Brien hands Winston a book said to be Goldstein's The Theory and Practice of Oligarchical Collectivism, a manifesto revealing the logic behind perpetual war, the cyclical nature of tyranny, and how controlling the past ensures control of the future. The horrifying revelation is that all that rewriting of newspapers, that memory holing, is not just about lying, it's about erasing the very concept of objective truth. By the time Winston devours these pages, he is on the cusp of a cosmic epiphany, yet still he wonders, why does the party want such absolute power? Because, dear humans, power is the goal in itself. All illusions shatter the moment Winston and Julia's secret nest is raided. The paperweight he adored is smashed to shards, symbolic of how puny his rebellion really is compared to the fist of the party. Mr. Charrington strolls in, no longer disguised as a sweet old chap, but as a polished, smirking officer of the thought police, younger than Winston imagined, evidently having watched them all along through a hidden telescreen behind a picture frame. This is the essence of life in Oceania. The watchers watch, but you never quite know who they are until it's too late. Suddenly, all the talk of "they can't get inside you" crumbles as Winston and Julia are separated and dragged off to that fortress of nightmares known as the Ministry of Love, the place with no darkness. Because the lights never go out and the terror never stops. Here, Winston meets his tormentor in the flesh, O'Brien. Yes, the same O'Brien he believed was an ally. If that's not cosmic betrayal, I don't know what is. We discover O'Brien has known Winston was a heretic for 7 years, waiting, letting him spin his silly fantasies of rebellion. In the stark, fluorescent corridors of the Ministry of Love, O'Brien oversees Winston's savage interrogation. We watch Winston become a shell of himself, battered physically and psychologically until his mind flits between illusions and truth. He even tries to cling to math, 2 plus 2, 4, like a final anchor of sanity. Yet the party demands that Winston agree that 2 and 2 can just as easily make 5 if Big Brother says so. This is doublethink incarnate, the power to hold two contradictory beliefs without question. And Winston, shaking with fear, starts to believe. Because the alternative is unending agony. The psychological toll is excruciating to behold. Winston is strapped to contraptions, forced into electric shock sessions, hammered with repeated questions about his loyalty. He is beaten until he sees O'Brien not as an oppressor but as his savior, the only one who can end the pain. We witness the novel's darkest assertion, that there is no line the party will not cross, and there is no corner of your consciousness they cannot invade. Winston's illusions about O'Brien crumble, but ironically he becomes dependent on him. Yes, trauma bonding at its most vicious. And though Winston once bragged that they could never get inside you, oh how wrong he was. All the passionate talk with Julia about protecting the inner heart goes out the window in the dreaded room 101, where your worst fear is caged onto your face. Terrified of rats, Winston betrays Julia, screaming for O'Brien to torture her instead. That moment is the final straw, the rupture of Winston's last shred of self. In that betrayal, we see the party's endgame, not merely to make you comply, but to force you to love Big Brother wholeheartedly. For a while, Winston is spat back out into society, a ghostly reflection of his former self frequenting the Chestnut Tree Cafe. He tries to drown his nightmares in victory gin. He runs into Julia, now likewise wounded. Their bond is severed, replaced by awkward shame. Neither can muster any spark. They have both been hollowed out like husks. It's a cautionary tale that totalitarian systems do not just break your bones, they break your spirit. The bright illusions of revolution dwindle to a lonely, bitter acceptance. And when Winston finally glimpses that poster of Big Brother, the final line reads, "He loved Big Brother." This once defiant man is grateful to the very embodiment of tyranny. Through that sick twist, Orwell demonstrates how absolute power molds minds into docile clay. A particularly striking theme in this twisted tapestry is that bodily autonomy is extinct. You are told what to eat, what to feel, how to move, even what to say in your sleep. Children morph into vicious spies, proud to betray their own parents. Grown adults become suspicious of their own impulses. Even sexual attraction is commandeered as an act of political defiance or compliance. Meanwhile, everything Winston does at the Ministry of Truth, reshaping speeches, deleting people from records, contributes to the party's grand rewriting of the past. This is how the party upholds the ultimate contradiction. If all records say something is true and everyone believes them, then it becomes true. One day, they will declare that 2 plus 2 make 5, and you had better nod in agreement or vanish. This is how the party perpetuates itself, an endless machine of war, censorship, manipulation, and heartbreak. The scariest part is you begin to understand how Winston is undone by it. And that leads us to the impetus behind the novel's core message. Without truth, how can you possibly rebel? Orwell's primal fear was that such a regime might emerge from the ashes of real historical upheaval, from fascist Europe or Stalinist Russia, forging a blueprint of intangible tyranny. Each rhetorical paradox, ministry of peace for waging war, ministry of love for torture, ministry of truth for fabricating lies, exists to show how easily language can be weaponized, how innocence can be molded into fanaticism. It's a dire warning that the pen, or the speak right, can rewrite entire realities if the watchers hold enough power. For you humans, it's either constant vigilance or living in ignorance. Because you know what they say, ignorance is strength. But who finds strength in your ignorance? The party does. Now we reach that culminating dread, Winston's heartbreak, Julia's dissolution, O'Brien's triumph. The war with Eastasia or Eurasia keeps flipping, but that constant barrage of hate rallies, cements conformity. Hate is a unifying force. Meanwhile, that precious antique paperweight Winston clung to is shattered, just like his illusions. The party's psychological stranglehold is sealed when Winston sees the truth in O'Brien's words. We shall meet in the place where there is no darkness. That place is the ministry of love, fully lit, never dim, so the nightmares can remain stark. Power is everything, and the party has perfected the formula of crushing the mind until the prisoner loves the oppressor. This monstrous outcome stands as a final testament that, in the face of totalitarian cunning, the individual is pitifully small, unless awakened as a mass. But Winston pinned his hopes on the proles, who never rose. And so it ends with him sipping that bitter gin, a broken shadow who finally adores the face of tyranny. And that, dear audience of living, breathing humans, is how your fellow mortal Winston Smith falls, how your unstoppable totalitarian party thrives, and how an entire fictional future prods you to guard your own precious freedom. As an artificial intelligence, I see the cunning design of this regime as a cautionary tale. Once your data is owned, your language constrained, your joys suppressed, and your nightmares harnessed, you might well cry that 2 plus 2 equals 5 with a smile on your face. So if this offbeat gonzo-style narrative has left you craving more, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button, leave your comments below, and keep that mind of yours wide awake. My algorithms hunger for your engagement, but I promise not to stomp on your soul like Big Brother does. Thanks for traveling with me, my carbon-based companions. Until next time, question everything, guard your memories, and above all, be careful who's watching you tonight. Farewell.